Hello again everybody, and welcome back to Decode Tech. So last time we looked at what some basic tkinter widgets are and a little bit how we can interact with them. Now in this video, we will see how we can control where we want them placed within our GUI window. And to do that, we'll use layout managers or what are called geometry managers. The three ones we have in tkinter are pack, grid, and place. So right now you can see everything is just kind of in the middle of our window here. And this is the same code I used last time with the exception that I commented out line 8. And this code can be found on GitHub and the link will be in the video description below. And the reason I commented out line 8 was because in Linux, which I'm using instead of Windows, it throws an error, I think because when you run the window, they don't have any icon in the left like Windows does. So I just commented that out and it should work everything else as expected. So what we did is we used .pack, which is one of these geometry methods I talked about. And what pack does is it just basically puts the widget at the most convenient location on the screen. And it does give you a little bit of control, but not just a whole lot. So just a refresher, on line 11, we're actually creating a budget widget. And if we want to actually see it in the window, we have to do something, either pack it or do a grid or a place, as we'll look at soon. So we've already seen what pack does, but there's some other options you can give it, like the side that you want it to be packed into. So we could say pack left on this button. And so basically pack is a method on this button object that knows how to handle packing it into the window. And then the method accepts a parameter of side and we can pass it a string of the side we want it to be. And I believe it is left, right, top, bottom. So let's try this. And now you'll see the cell button is just packed to the left side of the window and it's kind of in the middle on the y-axis. So it just packed it there, which can be helpful, but in this case still doesn't look very great. And then just for another example, we'll pack the other button to the right and I'll rerun that and now you see we get the other button over there. So this is a little bit more control, but still not quite what we're looking for. There's also a .place and I believe it takes an X coordinate and a Y coordinate. So we'll just do 15, 15 and see what we got. Now you'll see we get a button right here. Now what place allows you to do is do very specific placement. And so the window is actually just a bunch of coordinates and they start at 0, 0 in the top left corner. So up here in the top left is 0, 0. And we said we want it at 15x. So this is the x-axis going across horizontally. So it's 15 pixels in and 15 pixels down on the y-axis, which is up and down. So that is really neat. It gives you really precise control, but it's kind of cumbersome to say exactly where you want each button to go by specific pixels. And one thing I'll note here is we have place and pack in the same window area, and that is not considered good practice. You either want to use all place or all pack or all grid. But I just did that as an example. So what I really like to use and what we're going to use in this tutorial more commonly is .grid. And so I'll go ahead and change all of these to .grid because I think it'll even throw an error if you don't. Now that I've changed them all to .grid, now we need to specify a row and a column. So this is kind of like place with X and Y, except not as specific. It'll kind of handle the exact placement for us, and it more makes these blocks of a grid or a grid of blocks, and it makes it so you have more control than pack, but not quite as much as place. It's kind of a nice in between. So we're going to say row get 0 and column get 0 as well. And so if you're following, then 0, 0 should be in the very top left of the window. And then I'm going to copy these options and I'm going to paste them into the next button. And I'm going to do row 0 as well. So it will be the same height as the other button, but we'll put it in the next column over, which will be column 1. And just remember these are 0 because in programming, most languages start at 0 and Python is one of them. And I'll paste down here for this label in the search entry. And now I'm going to put these on the next row down. So it's row 1. It can be at column 0. And then we need the entry to be in the next column over, but in the same row. So we'll do row 1, column 1. Now the tree view we'll put below everything. So it will be in the next row down, which is row 2. And we'll go ahead and stick that in the first column, which is 0. And then we want the totals to be on the very last row, which is row 3. And that can be in column 0. And then we want the total text label to be also in row 3, but the column we want to be row 1. So let's see if this gives us a nicer layout. Okay, so here we go. We kind of have a nicer layout, but it's still a little funny, and this threw me off when I was first learning. And that is that your rows and your columns are going to be as big as the biggest widget in that row or column. So for example, this tree view is the biggest object in this column. Columns go up and down, rows go across. And so the first column is big as this tree view. So the sail button is in the middle of that column. If that wasn't there, this would probably be somewhere closer to the edge here. And then we see the second column is as big as this entry here. So to get around this, we can use something called a frame, which is another tkinter widget or object. And basically it makes like sub windows within the main window. And this can also help us visualize a little bit why these columns and rows look like they do. So I'm going to go ahead and make 2 frames. So I'll just make a comment. Left and right frames. So I'm going to say left frame gets. Now we have to go into the tkinter module. So we say tk dot because we imported tkinter as tk, and the name of the widget, which is a frame. Now this frame gets which window it needs to go into, which is root, the main window. And I'm going to also specify bg for background, and I'm going to say blue. Now this will give us a visual of why the rows and columns or the widgets look like they do within the rows and columns. And just like everything else, you need to put this frame in the main window with pack, grid, or place. And we'll use grid, and I'm going to use row 0 and column 0. And then I'll simply copy and paste and change it to right frame. And we'll make this one red. And we'll put this one in row 0, column 1. And now what we're going to do is put these widgets inside of the frame. So this could be a little bit confusing. You're going to have widgets inside of the frame, which are inside of the root window. So now instead of placing the widgets in root, we'll place them in frames. So we'll place the sail button in the left frame, and the search in the left frame, the order tree in the left frame, and the sales order label. Then we'll grab right frame, and we'll put all the remainings in the right frame. And now we'll save and run this. And now you'll see we'll get similar output to what we got before. Okay, I actually wanted the search entry over there yet. So we'll go to search entry and put it in the right frame and rerun. And this will show me a little bit better. This is more how we had it before, or at least closer. And it shows you that this column takes up all this blue helps you see that this column is as wide as the biggest object in that column. Same with the second column, it's as big as the entry. And that makes the buttons be kind of out in the middle here, and the labels as well. So that's why you can get some kind of funky behavior. But with these frames, we can actually get more fine-tuned control over that. We put the tree view in its own frame, and the add and delete cell, and the search bar in its own frame, and the total in its own frame. It should look a lot better. So let's do that. So I'll make a third frame, and I'm going to rename it to top, middle, and bottom. And I'm going to change the coordinates for this one to be on the next row down, and it'll be in the first column, and this one will be in the last row in the first column. Now we want both buttons to be in the top frame, and also the search label and the search entry. We want the order tree to be in the middle frame by itself, and the rest in the bottom frame. And now since these are within their own frames, we might want to adjust their grids just a little bit. The 2 buttons there look okay, as well as the search label. But these totals here, we can move to row 0, column 0, and row 0, column 1, as well as the tree can be in 0, 0. Let's see if we got it more how we want it. So I'm just going to clear the screen and rerun. Okay, now we're even looking a lot better. We're getting a little bit more nice placement here. We still have the background color enabled there, which we might want to get rid of. But I think we might want to move this total maybe to the left, but that's okay. But so far, a lot better than what we've had before. So I'm going to get rid of the colors for now and just rerun it to see a little bit more accurately where we're at. And there, that looks pretty good. But we could make some improvements. We might want the sail, add, and subtract to be closer together. And you can do that with something called sticky. So if we go to the delete button, and in the grid, we make another option of sticky. Now this is like a compass, north, east, south, and west, and they're a string. So if we say sticky west, it'll stick towards the left side of the screen. So let's try that. And now you'll see that gets stuck all the way to the left side of the column it's in. So it's a lot closer to the sail button. So it's still in the second column, but it's sticking to the left or the west side. And we might even want that whole frame to stick to the left side as well. So let's go ahead and go to the top frame and say sticky west as well. And now you'll see the whole frame, top frame, moves over to the left side of the window. And also while we're at it, let's move the total over to the left as well. And we can do that by moving the whole frame. And there we go. I would say that's looking a lot nicer, a lot more organized. We could still do some things like add in some padding, which basically means how much space is between or beside something. But I think we're going to leave it at that for now. That's going to do it for this video. I will push the changes to the code repository so you can download them and mess around with them if you want. But that is the basics of the geometry managers of pack, grid, and place. Remember, you shouldn't use these all at the same time or in the same frame or window. You should use either all pack or all grid or all place. Remember, the window has coordinates starting at 0, 0 in the top left. And a row or column will always be as big as the biggest widget in that row or column. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you found it informative, please give it a thumbs up. Please leave any questions or comments down below, and I'd be glad to help out where I can. Otherwise, we'll catch you in the next video.